Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Service Without Excuses podcast here, sponsored by Sotellus. You can go to sotellus.com/Rob Lyon. It's ROBLYON, and test drive an incredible review management system. In fact, our guest today actually uses the system too as well. And it is amazing. It is impressive. It gets us consistent work, consistent leads, and consistent feedback that helps us grow and build and maintain our reputation across the board. I love it. I use it in our own business. We pay full price. We get no deals onto it. We just love the system. It's one of our best marketing tools. So something I'd suggest, go ahead again to sotellus.com/Rob Lyon. Another one of those guests I have today is anybody that knows me knows I'm a big fan of automation, making your business automated, whether you're there or not. We've had a lot of changes since the beginning of 2020 and COVID, and it changed the world differently. Some say for good, some say for the worse. I will say it's both, and this is one of those pluses that gives your business a automatic tool that can be used all the time, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, and doesn't need any time or sick time or paid vacation time off or frustration time. It doesn't make a difference. This system allows that. I am a member of it now. I joined it for my business. I am just fascinated with the whole program. But I met our guest at the experience in Charleston last week, and I'm going to have him introduce himself. He has a program called Fiddlebug. That's FITTLEBUG.com. And what it is, and I'll let him explain a bit more, but it's an automated system in scheduling your company, even drip campaigns, and keeping your company completely automated because, as we know, and I'll get into further, people love efficiencies and be able to book online. But I want to welcome our guest, Steve Mastio from Fiddlebug, if I have that correct, sir. How are you today?
You got it correct. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
I appreciate it, man. It was just a pleasure, and I was just walking through the aisles at the experience, and I don't know, I just looked at. I think I was just scanning some of those things. And said, "Hey, let me explain a little more about what I do." I'm like, "Great!" So we sat down, and you showed it to me, and you showed it to me that two of the largest franchise companies in the world, for that matter, currently a number of their franchisees, even some corporate people, are using this platform, and what it does, and I'll have Steve explain it better. It again puts your company on autopilot when it comes to scheduling. If you can't get to the phones quick enough, if you have a large staff and your phones are running off the hook, this is a great way to do it if you want live in person. But say you don't, you want to scale up, but you want to downsize when it comes to having and relying on office staff being able to take care of this for you. But Steve will explain a little bit more about the program. It's called Fiddlebug. Steve, please give our listeners a little bit more information about it, sir.
Yeah, thanks. It came as a brainchild about 14 years ago. So you got to think back 14 years ago what the whole world was like and what was going on from a technology standpoint and in the services industry. There wasn't quite honestly much going on. And I thought to myself, why is it I can get online and I can get see a flight to Saint somewhere, book a hotel, get a golf tee time, rent a car, and get the spouse a spa treatment all on the same sitting, but I can't see when I can get my carpets cleaned on my time. And I said, why isn't anybody offering such a tool that all the other industries have figured out? The banking industry now does most everything online, the travel industry, the finance industry. I said, why isn't the service industry doing this? And so I started looking into it 14 years ago and did a little research and discovered it was huge. The opportunity to empower what I call digital mom. I didn't phrase it, I didn't coin it, but there's a saying out there called digital mom, and basically it's a mom who makes decisions on home services and uses technology. So whether that's a smartphone, a computer, a laptop, whatever, she knows how to use technology. Make a long story short, I did my homework and I said, you know what? Based upon how many people hire professional carpet cleaners out there, and the average at that time $197 average carpet cleaning job, and the number of women who book home services, and the number of women that use technology, you factor all those things together, I think the number came out $3.7 billion worth of opportunity to empower a digital mom to have a better working relationship with the service companies she gets to play telephone tag with, or email tag or text tag. And I said, why isn't anybody taking it the next step? They were all offering web forms, and a lot of them still are offering a web form. A web form is fill out information and somebody will get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine going on to Southwest Airlines, figuring out what flight you want at the cost you want, filling out all the information, putting in your personal data, and then getting that email that says somebody will get back to you? No, no, no. People get on the internet to finish things, not to continue them. They could have picked up the phone, just like they've been doing since Alexander Graham Bell showed them how, and called the service provider or called the carpet person. But you know what? In today's fast-paced world, 50, I think it's 49 or 50%, pretty sure it's at least 50% of the entire labor force is women. And women make up 82+% of the decisions on a home service, as we sit in our lazy boys, of course.
Right, right, right.
You know, but so they're working, they got the kids that are hanging on them, and they've got to make these decisions with the guy who doesn't answer his phone.
Right.
And so she ends up playing telephone tag, gets frustrated. Here comes the internet and empowers people to have information dissemination right in front of them. This one didn't answer the phone, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And that can break a company that doesn't understand that loyalty is huge, but it's not the king.
No, and if they think all of a sudden you're not loyal to them, it's going to be the same thing. I'm thinking about a job that I went to look at the other day. It's a commercial property rental, like storage rentals, and most of the time they have an office to this, maybe some carpet in it. This particular place has these long hallways, this huge. It's actually almost 5,000 square feet. Something you don't think you'd see, but all these runner hallways inside are all lighter colored commercial grade carpet. And it's actually in pretty decent shape. It needs a cleaning, but you wouldn't think it'd be there. So probably I'm guessing the carpet cleaning company, by the way, she told me she called 4 companies last week, the week before I went there. And then she called me and she says, you were the only one that picked up. And I thought, okay, well, I'm sorry you're dealing with that, but maybe they were all in the field. She goes, it was last week. And my jaw hit the floor. And I'm like, so they had nothing in place to do that. So one of two things: either they thought it was just so small, it wasn't worth their time, which is stupid because it's a big job and I'm getting it, um, and or they just didn't have anything in place to do it. So they didn't want to answer the phone, but they had nothing else in place to say, okay, I'll give you another option if I can't pick up. I come from the franchise world, which we discussed, like before when we were just started the podcast. And in the franchise world, you have to have a sense of urgency. That sense of urgency can be automated. That sense of urgency can be talking to somebody, but you can't not have a sense of urgency. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly amazing, and it's only gotten worse. And the
Well, let me
nice,
give you another example. I was calling somebody to introduce myself, and I got a voicemail after about 8 rings. Now, 8 rings is about 20 some seconds. I'm sitting there thinking, is it going to answer? Then all of a sudden it comes on and he says, hey, thanks for calling, blah, blah, blah. Please leave your message and somebody will get back to you at the end of the day. I go, at the end of the day, you have lost the sale.
yes, you have.
and so I just put it that way. I left a message and I said, you need me. You may not know it, but you need me. But anyway, getting back to how Fiddlebug was developed, I just said, you know what? Why don't I do it? But I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it like beyond. I'm from Chicago, so I can say this. Beyond the normal Chicago Bears game plan, which is take it to the 10-yard line and punt. So I'm going to take it to the goal line. And what was missing was the piece that all the other industries had figured out, that it needs to be real time. It has to be based on actual availability. If you fill out a form and want somebody to do work that's going to require 6 hours of work, how are you going to get that done in a 2-hour window option? You are not. And so you are either going to tick off the person before or after, waiting for you or saying, where are you? So that's one of the first things that I said has to be resolved. It has to be real time. So when somebody uses Fiddlebug, literally, a consumer goes in and says, I want this, 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 and this, and it might be 3 rooms of carpeting, 2 protected, 1 deodorized, 3 pet stains, clean an ottoman and 100 square foot of tile. And all that adds up to a timestamp, which might be 3 hours and 14 minutes. Every line item has a timestamp. So it adds it all up and it says, now we know the timestamp, compare it with the schedule of other appointments, plus add travel time so that we can get to the next appointment without being late in the zip code they logged in with. And we have a timestamp that shows when they're actually available in real time and when they're not. It's like, when does the plane land and when does it take off? So now a consumer doesn't have to wait around for what's called the misery index, as the Wall Street Journal wrote about maybe 10 years ago, which is wait for it, take a half a day's payoff and wait for the cable guy. Because you don't know whether he's going to be there at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He says he's going to be there in the morning. With Fiddlebug, you know pretty precisely how long they're going to be in your house so that you can get your daughter to ballet or so forth. And so that's the thing I set out to conquer, and ended up adding a whole bunch of other features to it. But in a nutshell, at its core, Rob, what it does is it allows consumers to work with service providers on consumer time based on service provider time anytime they want. Whether it's 6 a.m. before church on a Sunday, they can see when they can get there and book their services. Whether it's midnight with insomnia, or whether it's Christmas morning, anytime they can literally work with the service provider who has Fiddlebug and see when they are available to do exactly what they want them to do and when they're not, and literally book themselves. That's what it is at its core. It has other marketing and business, what I call business related features inside of it, which I think are pretty slick and help them run their business more efficiently. But at its core, it opens up the doors the other 16 hours of the day that you're really not talking to them. And I tell people, here should be your slogan. If you love us the 8 hours we get to play telephone tag, you're now empowered to love us the other 16 and do it yourself.
That's very
And
true.
once they do, you and I are old enough to remember, at least I am, having to call up 1-800-United to catch a flight before they had the internet. Once I found out I could book a flight online, I've never called 1-800-United again. And I think that's where the world is going in the terms of service. Not all services, but a lot of services, many services you can apply these rules to.
So let's look at two big companies, Amazon and Google, two of the biggest companies out there. And they both did it. Amazon, before COVID hit, was doing home services. They were scheduling carpet cleanings, they were scheduling pest control, they were scheduling plumbing repairs, they were scheduling a whole bunch of different options for the end consumer. When it comes to, a lot of business owners, and I was one of them in the first place, that feel I got to answer the phones. I got to hear a live voice. They're gonna be so happy that they can get a live voice. This is what people need to be. And of course, I'm thinking about people my age, people actually our age, that go, okay, this is we want that live voice. But then I think to myself, where do you purchase a lot of your stuff from? Where do you purchase? You go to your supply house. Do you call the supplier? No, I go online, I put it together. Do you go to Amazon? I buy a ton of stuff on Amazon every year. A lot of business supplies, ironically, I can buy on Amazon too as well. And I have this Amazon business account so I can itemize it completely separate. Even though I pay a little bit more, it's worth it. But what do I do? Do I call down the road to the local store and say, hey, do you have something in stock? No. I go online to see who has it in stock and I order it. I don't even do it. And I'm a people person. I'm a person that picked up the phone. I love talking. I love engagement. However, that's not how the consumer is today, and I'm near 50 years of age, so I'm looking at the standpoint of my age is not doing the phone calls, is not answering live. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have something in place that says, okay, if you want to book it online, fine. If not, either leave a message
Yeah.
or hit one and then talk to a live representative. I'm not saying you should alienate that, but I'm saying it should be part of your toolbox. All right. In a toolbox, you have different types of screws, different types of hammers, different types of drills, different types of drill bits. You have to have all these things in order to have an arsenal of equipment in order to repair something. Well, this is no different than that. If you're just saying, hey, listen, I still want a live person answering, nothing wrong with that at all. But I think you should at least put things on autopilot. What I was shocked about, I talked to one of the people that had used Fiddlebug before we even spoke, and he had said, it's 70% of my jobs are booked online. And I mean, the lump in my throat just went down, like in disbelief to think, and I know the person very well. he's definitely a people person, definitely old school, definitely thinks the same way I do. He's like 70% of the people elect to book online
And
versus
that
in person.
actually is shown out in various studies done by the Gartner Group and WhatsApp organization on internet studies and consumer behavior. It's something like, given the choice, they would highly like for you to have an online tool like this, and somewhat highly like to the amount of 92%.
Oh my God. Yep. He
And
just
so
said
what they're saying
70%.
is,
Yeah.
out of the total consumers, 92% are somewhat likely or very likely to choose you over someone else if you offer them a means to work with you along these lines in real time and empower them to be able to do the things that they've been doing for years, like pump their own gas, like make their own trades, like deposit their own checks right from their house. Things that empower and make people's lives easier today than they were yesterday. That's called branding. And I'll never forget it. Years ago, probably 30 years ago or something like that, I was asked to fly down to New Orleans I was in insurance, and I was asked to fly down to New Orleans and attend a marketing conference of the major insurance companies. I mean, the major ones, American Family and Kemper and all the others. Sitting in an auditorium, they asked me if I would sit on a panel of experts talking about this thing called the internet that was 1 year old in 1992. The internet came out in 1991, and they go, "What? What? What's this thing?" And so in 1992, everybody started going, "Well, maybe we should look into it." So the guy stands up and asks a question, and he rambled and rambled and rambled for probably 5 or 10 minutes. It just seemed like forever. And the consensus of his question was, how should we approach this thing called the internet like we do postcards or magazines or TV advertisements or all the traditional stuff we understand? Should we do it the same way? Should we even do it? Should we spend as much money? What do you think? Should we do it? And I'm just sitting there going, so I grabbed the microphone, and I'll pretend this is the mic. And I grabbed the mic and I go, yes. And the place cracks up. And and I said, sir, I don't mean to insult you, but let me help you out here. If if you can empower somebody's lives through the internet with your product better tomorrow than they had yesterday, you could call your product Yelp,
Right.
AskJeeves.com, Yahoo.com. Those are names that you wouldn't necessarily associate with personal or professional empowerment, but it's that branding of what it does that they remember. So, for example, when somebody books in Fiddlebug, they don't know, quite honestly, because I'm not really going about it that way. I kind of give the onus over to the service provider, but they just see it as, this service provider gives me the ability to work with him on my time, and I'm a busy mom, and I appreciate that, because the second most important thing to me in my life outside of my children and family is my time. There's just not enough of it, and anybody that can help me understand how to work that better, I appreciate them. And so I learned a lot in that session down there about why there was a need for Fiddlebug, 20 years later. But
Right, right. It comes down to people having convenience at their fingertips, having an option. So think about it. Some people are not confrontational. Most people are not confrontational, and that's a good thing. But somebody, customer Mrs. Smith, calls and says, "Hey, I have 4 rooms of carpet cleaning, or I need uh, my toilet replaced. I need my air handlers serviced. I need my air ducts cleaned, whatever that happens to be." And they actually prefer not to speak to somebody because they're not the type that want to go into back and forth and how this is, and they just want to get a price and they want to get some information, see if it's within their budget, and make a decision and be done, as you say.
yeah,
So that I
that's
think,
our slogan: book it and be done.
book it and be done. I was going somewhere with that. No question. But not the fact that first of all, it pre-qualifies them and says these are our pricing structures, and if it's within your range, this is what we can do. If you're not sure, you still have a question, you could still talk to us live. It's fine. It's no big deal. But at least you know where you stand. You don't need to do the proverbial haggle back and forth between I want this, or how come so much this, how come so little this, what's this, what's this. You don't have to do any of that. You can get all that information online. And again, if you still need to talk to somebody about something specific, that's what your office staff or you were for.
Yeah.
You know,
A
if you
couple of things I would suggest that lead into that. And I want to get back to the consumer, not the consumer, the service provider. You said, that they think they have to call. And the answer is no, they don't have to call. That's an ego thing. A lot of people would still like to call, but not everybody. Not everybody wants to know how much you know about uh, I don't even know, certain aspects of a carpet versus other aspects of a carpet.
right.
They just want their carpets clean. They want to know when you're free and how much you charge. And are you a credible person? Now, when they go through, and so when I first introduced this to the service providers, it was like they thought I had three eyes. They go, oh my God, why would I want to let consumers control my calendar? I'm such a busy guy that I'm the only one that can do that. And I still hear that some today. But the reality of the matter is they're not controlling your calendar. They're seeing your calendar and allowing themselves to be infused in that calendar on their time based on certain business rules, such as maybe when you're in the area, maybe if you're not 15 miles away from another appointment, things like that we built into the program. But it was a hard sell, quite honestly, for the first couple of years. And then about 5, 6 years ago, it started to kick in. And today they go, wow, how'd you come up with that? I go, I come up with it. I came up with it 14 years ago. Just waiting for you people to catch up.
Overnight sensation. Overnight sensation.
Yeah, it's an overnight sensation. Yeah. So I kind of built it and I brought it to have it evaluated in downtown Chicago by a really big media company in Chicago, which will be nameless, but you know them. And they said they thought it was a really good idea because it did both things. It basically empowered the consumer and the service provider each. And it's one thing to go after and try to empower a service provider only and maybe a consumer only, but it empowers both of them with the most important aspect called time. I was sent this unsolicited testimonial from a guy in Oregon, a client of mine. I won't say who, but not that it matters. But after 1 year, he sent me this email, and I opened it up and I said, "I just want to thank you, Steve. We've had a great year in our first year." And he generated gross sales of $280,000 from just Fiddlebug orders online. But he said the most exciting thing was how much it saved him in time. He calculated it to be about 190 hours.
Wow.
Now, 190 hours times paying somebody 20, 30 bucks an hour plus insurance plus space, stuff that adds up. Just that alone paid for a Fiddlebug. So, the concept of does it work is over. It works only if you tell people. If you don't tell people that they can work with you this way, and you have a tool that allows them to work with you better, then you have just licensed Fiddlebug, the greatest billboard in the middle of the Mojave Desert that nobody knows exists.
Exactly.
So you still have to market your own company, but now you get to say, blah, 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 call this number or click and be done. Your choice. And
Exactly.
once they do it,
I was able to yesterday, and I redid it honestly 3 times because I was like, no, that doesn't cover all the bases, doesn't cover all the bases. And I finally got a good recording that I liked, but it was very simple. It was, thank you for calling. We've made it easier than ever to book us online 24 hours a day, 7 days, 365 days a year. And you could do it in less than 5 minutes. And this is how you can do it. If for any reason it doesn't answer all the questions you have, feel free to leave a message, and we'll call you right back as soon as we're off the phone.
That all my clients tell me that's the most powerful form of marketing. Not answer. I've got one client who doesn't answer his phone at all. Now think about that. He's in business but doesn't answer his phone.
Right.
He just tells people what they can do, and they go and do it. It's like the other day I was doing a webinar for a franchise that I'm associated with in a national agreement, And one of the people on there as a panelist was a client for 3 months of Fiddlebug. Her name was Rose. And Rose told the story about she got so busy that she missed 3 calls during the day. That was her job, to answer the phone, tell people, book, blah, blah, blah. She missed 3 calls. So at the end of the day, she said, I'm going to go back and see who those calls were. And out of curiosity, take and compare them to Fiddlebug bookings. And all 3 had heard the message that said they could book themselves. They hung up and went and booked themselves. So she missed those 3, but they still became clients. Now, you said something really interesting and important that I discovered probably about 2 or 3 years into the program, and that is a little thing called information boxes. When you're reviewing something on the internet and you have questions, unless there's a chat box and it's a good experience and not just an automated chat box that answers, you put in the word this and you get 15, click here, click. No, that's not chat. Chat is a real person. Unless you have that option all the time, people were having questions about some of the things that were being offered, and that's normal. What is antimicrobial cleaner? What does that mean? And why would I want it? What do you mean low moisture carpet cleaning? What are you talking about? No water. Explain that to me, why I would want that. So we built along the sales cycle at 3 levels of the online sales cycle. What do you do? What are my options? And what does it cost? We built areas where information boxes can pop up to answer those most common questions, so that when it's 10 o'clock at night and she's considering you on what to do, she's empowered herself, or we've empowered her to be able to know through info boxes the answers to those common questions. And interestingly, I did a little study and went back over the last couple of years, and statistically, I could tell you that the average order that's a call in and somebody answers versus the average order online where people do it themselves, online is anywhere between 10, 15, and sometimes 20% greater.
Wow.
And
You
I
know what?
think it's because they don't feel like they're being sold, but they're buying. People love to buy, but they don't like to be sold.
You just brought up something, and I thought about, as a business owner, one of the big Achilles heel every business owner I've ever met in my life, including myself, have ever had, is we give away the farm because we want to get work. We want to keep our guys working. We want to make the sale. We want to close the sale. We don't want to think about it. So we're ready to give away everything in order to get that job. This system is not ready to do that. Yes, you can plan it to say, if you achieve, which we have, a certain level, there's a tiered system with discounts and things like that. Once they start purchasing more and more, but the system doesn't have any emotion to it. The system just says, here's your price. This is what we'll do. This is how long it'll take. And this is when we can do it. There's no emotion. There's no, well,
Well, there's no emotion,
what do
but
you think?
there's personalization,
Right, right.
because you can embed a video of you showing Mrs. Jones through this tool called the claw how cat urine comes out of a carpet. She could see it coming out, sucked out of the carpet through this 15 to 30-second video next to pet urine extraction. And she goes, oh my God, I want that. I mean, people sell more pet urine extraction by putting a video of it right next to it and how it comes out. And they go, I want one. I want 3 of those.
Right.
So you can have personalization, saying, okay, this is the guy that's going to come out and do it. But again, I think it gets back to the concept of, I'm not being sold anything.
Right.
I'm learning and I'm buying.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're being educated, and they don't have to, again, deal with that. And you also don't have to deal with, let's say you have a CSR, customer service rep, in your office, and the customer service rep is having problems at home, or problems with another coworker, or whatever it happens to be. It could be a variety of things. And that person's having a bad day. There's a chance they may not come across very well to the customer or client that's talking to them on the phone. There's a chance they're not going to cover everything, even though they've been pretty, for the most part, highly trained in how to present something. There's going to be none of that because this system just does it. Again, there's no human factor. And I never want to replace a human being, but human beings are human. We make mistakes. We have bad days. We have good days. There should be something that is an end all when it comes to that. When it comes to, being able to make it as simple as possible for the end consumer. There's a reason Amazon grew as fast as they did. It's because they gave the customers exactly what they want when they wanted it, and for a price that wasn't necessarily the lowest, but they delivered upon it. And usually, you didn't pay much or anything for shipping. And
Yeah.
again, you're not getting the lowest price on Amazon ever. You don't even worry, but you can get a lower price because Amazon, it's full of a lot of independent resellers that have to mark it up in order to sell it on Amazon versus buying independently. So there's no, you're getting a great deal. Probably not, but it is much more convenient and it's on your terms. That's what I see Fiddlebug being personally for the service industry.
Yeah, and guess what? I didn't build it just for carpet cleaners. It literally can be put together for podiatrists,
Right.
chiropractors, dentists. Not all dental work, but I mean, they know how long it takes to do crowns on average. They know how long it takes to fix a cavity, to whiten teeth. If I called up my dentist and said, "Listen, I got this unbelievable toothache," I make an appointment. He has no idea how long I'm going to be sitting in that chair. But
Right.
there are lots of industries that know things like that. How long it takes to tune up this Harley Davidson hog versus this Harley Davidson hog, and allowing people to book themselves streamlines the entire process, but also once they learn how to use it over and over, the administration costs go down and down and down.
Right.
And people always talk to me about, crazy ideas. Not all crazy. Some of them I've implemented. Ideas to add on to Fiddlebug. And it always seems to be about what they can get for. There are always service providers that are thinking in terms of me, 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 me. You know what? Without the consumer wanting it and making it simple, as you said, you don't have a business.
Right.
And there is no cash flow coming in from the internet source. And if you don't think the internet's here to stay, who was it that said that? Bill Gates? I think it was. I think he's going through a hard time right now. But
Yeah.
I think it was him, either him or Al Gore or something. I know he invented the internet.
Right. Right.
Somebody very famous said, this is a fad. It's not going to be around, but
Right.
it's here to stay, obviously. So
It is my entire business. My
yeah,
entire business, the day I opened my door, was done through social media posting, content posting, running a couple ads here and there because I had no budget. Just starting from scratch, starting organically, putting information out there, and getting used to writing content that is not for me. Here's another thing that business owners have to think about. You think what's good for you, and you just brought up a very good point. It's not, we think me, 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 me. It's about what I think is best for the customer, and you're just wrong because even when you write content, you're writing what's good for you, but you're not thinking how are they looking at it. Well, you're looking at it from a funnel down saying this is my business and this is what I'm going to deliver to you, and that's great, but ultimately they don't look at it that way. Their vision of what you do in a house is totally different than what your
yeah,
idea is
yeah,
going to be.
absolutely. You know what? When I was building this thing, I am not the coder. I pay the coders.
Right.
So I get a little concerned when I don't understand what the heck they're doing because I don't understand what the heck they're doing. And my mantra, it took 2 years to build. My mantra was, if it ain't simple, it ain't good. If you're going to err on simplicity. And I'll let people tell me it's too simple. That's fine. And they tell me all day long. It looks boxy. I call it the Volvo of the real time internet aspect. It runs great, but it's boxy, And we can fix the design, but what we can't fix is the functionality if it's not simple and efficient and good. You talked about social media. One of the things we built, gosh, maybe 5, 6 years ago, something we call SAFE, SAFE. Fiddlebug is more than just a scheduling tool. It also has a drip email program to automatically drip out when they order and drip out to remind them 24 hours before the appointment, and drip out another email that says, thanks for having us in the house. Click here to leave us reviews, and then click out and then send out another one 6 or 12 or 9 months later. Automatically, it drips out all these emails to remind them you're still in business. But the other thing we did to help the everybody, again, the consumer and the service provider and the consumer's friends, was build this thing called SAFE. SAFE, SAFE. It's an acronym for Save a Friend Effort. And what it does, it allows a consumer who loves a service provider to go to their Fiddlebug, log in and click a Facebook or a LinkedIn or a Twitter or email icon. Quite honestly, most of them pick Facebook. And they click Facebook, up pops a message from the service provider offering all their friends on Facebook the opportunity to get a discount, maybe 10% off for knowing the referrer and being friends with them. So the referrer, all they have to do to tell all their friends is go Facebook post, and it goes to that person. Let's call her Jane. It goes to Jane's Facebook wall. All of Jane's friends see that she really likes ABC Carpet Cleaning Company and thought they did a great job. And Sally goes, I was thinking about getting my carpets cleaned because you never know what people are thinking. So all Sally had to do was go click on the message. It takes Sally back to ABC Carpet Cleaning page. Sally logs in with the zip code of where she wants the service, and the discount of 10% is automatically applied. If Sally becomes a client, at the time that she becomes a client, Jane gets a credit. So Jane can build credits and earn money off of future services, and Sally gets a discount off of hers, and then she can do the same thing, all with one or two clicks of the mouse. And if you had to wait for somebody to tell all their friends when they see them next time and remember to tell them that they liked ABC, it's not going to happen. But if you can put it right in front of them and say, you win and they win, click here, post, done. We track it from there through the cookies into the social media and know who the referrer and the referee is, and the discounts are applied automatically. There's nothing left to be done. So that's the type of automation that I think is really cool, and it empowers people to spread information. They say there's nothing that spreads faster than bad information. And if you're not good at what you do, it doesn't matter whether you have fiddle and bug or whether you're offering the hand of God with every cleaning. You're not going to be in business. You suck. I mean, it's the bottom line. So Fiddlebug is a tool, like you said. It's a tool in the arsenal. And for $200 a month,
It's
you
amazing.
can make as much money as you want. And I have clients doing 20, 30, 40,000 a month. And I have clients doing 600, 800,
Yeah.
2,000 a month. Where are they losing?
Yeah. I mean,
Pricing was the hardest part for me. I wanted to have fast nickels versus slow dimes. I wanted as many people to be able to use it, um, but it had to be automated such to where I didn't have to have a staff of 50 people there to make sure that they could do everything they need to do. So automation became a huge part of it, from deploying it to training them and go get them, kid, just like we just did.
think yeah, and I was just gonna bring that up. When it came to your onboarding, some people call it onboarding, some people call it training, some people call it whatever they wanna call it, but you made it so simple, and as I'm going over, I'm going, "Oh, thank God he's doing it." I would screw this thing up 6 ways a Sunday. There's no 'cause that's not what we do. But like, it's like you're holding our hands saying, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? This is what we should do here." And you were literally doing it as part of the orientation. There's the good word, orientation, on the program and how to do it. And honestly, I've had training that have spent a lot more money on for training, that wasn't half as good. So I got to, as a testimonial for Steve, he breaks down everything, and there's nothing he doesn't cover, take care of, right up to getting it online. Like we got done, and this thing was online before I even got a chance to re-record my voicemail to say, "Hey, we have this now." It was already done, and that's how Steve runs his business. So, Steve, tell our listeners a little bit more about how they can find out about you. I'm really fascinated with the program because I think this is the future, and I fully am behind it and think this is an incredible program. It's a really good, and we talked about tools again. You have a hammer a sledgehammer for knocking something out, and you have a finishing hammer to tap something, maybe put your molding in or something like that. Guys, you need the right hammer for the right situation. And this program, in my honest 25-year 30 almost 30 years experience in this business, I've never seen anything like this. And I've seen, you know, scheduling systems, but nothing like this. This is incredible in my opinion. So Steve, thank you first and foremost for making it because it's going to make my life a hell of a lot easier. But please tell our listeners how it can make their life a hell of a lot easier too as well.
Sure. The first thing I would say is I kind of cringe sometimes, and everybody does it, so don't worry about it. When they call it a scheduling tool, I do it as well. I prefer to call it a booking tool because you don't schedule an airline ticket, you book an airline ticket. It's done, you're finished. You schedule something to do in the future. And so I prefer the rhetoric part of it to be called booked and be done. But again, I call it slip sometimes and call it scheduling tool.
Right.
It's a tool where I priced it such that if you want to have a business, grow a business, you need to follow your marketplace. And it used to be that the baby boomers, me, 60, had all the money. Guess who has it now?
Mm-hmm.
Generation X, Y, and the youngsters. Guess what they also did when they were growing up? They invented the internet. What makes you think they're not going to use it in the future? So there's your market. They have all the money. They developed the tool called the internet. You need to understand, which is a challenge. I admit it. I don't understand all the SEO and the pay per click and stuff like that and the marketing, but you still have to do it. Whether you pay somebody to do it or learn it yourself, it has to be done if you want to be found or have an attempt to be found so that the engines can find you, find that you have Fiddlebug and so forth. But for $200 a month, that's a sale. That's a sale in most service business.
Yeah.
One sale a month,
It's less than
and
that,
you've
by the
paid
way.
for it.
Less.
Yeah, I had one guy. Gosh, what was it? He got 15 orders in one day, and I want to say he paid for a year and a half, 2 years worth of service in one day. And you just don't know. I mean, every marketplace is different, but the point is that there's a large market of people out there that don't ever want to talk to you, but that doesn't mean they don't want you.
Right.
And they're called millennials, and they think this thing is just for texting. So they're not going to call you.
Right.
They're going to go on the internet. They're going to see what other people think, which is why Sotellus is such a great program.
Oh yeah.
I'm like you. I don't get any benefit from Sotellus. I use their program. Um, they must be a great sponsor for you, but I've been using them for the last since they came out with the program.
Right.
And I think their key differentiating factor is the video aspect of the
100%.
testimonial. And when I can see, that when I can see that Jane Smith just had her carpets cleaned while I'm on somebody's Fiddlebug, and Jane Smith is from my hometown, and I watch her on a video say, "Oh my gosh, Rob's carpet cleaning was great," blah blah blah. That to me is association. I can associate with a person and a word coming out of her mouth. If I get a testimonial page that says Tom S says this, I don't know who the hell Tom S is,
Right.
nor do I care.
Right.
But when you can personalize it down the way Sotellus did, they've got something, and I've told them that, and I just think that's a great little program.
And great customer service. That's I think the key. Likewise with your business, you get on the phone, you get right back, you respond to emails quickly. To us, that's the world. Service Monster's another one. They're getting back to you. They're answering questions. Sometimes they could be challenging questions for both sides. But they're able to answer the questions and try and achieve what we need to do. And as service, we're good at what we do. We're good at doing the task of the job. We might have some extra skills with marketing and sales and stuff like that, but generally, you're doing the job of doing the job. You're running a business, training and mentoring others, doing the job. This is the last thing you should have to worry about. You need to have that fail safe at the end. Again, I'm not saying you don't want office staff. If that's what you want them answering the phones live, great. But you have to have something in place that gives the consumer an option. Many times, as Steve has clearly laid out to us here in this podcast, many times, many more than not, people are going to they take the option to book online and be done with it.
And the worst scenario is they fill out a form only to find out that they get a call back the next day. It says, "Oh, I'm sorry, we have to move you." And they go, "Well, why the hell did I even get online in the first place? If it wasn't available, tell me it's not available." So that's the problem with web forms.
Right.
You mentioned Service Monster. We have been tied into Service Monster for, gosh, maybe 7, 8 years, something like that. To where our software, when somebody books, it obviously puts it on the Fiddlebug calendar. But if you have Service Monster, we tied into their API, and all the data goes immediately over to their program and says, this person coming over, does it match anybody in the database? If it does, it puts it in that account. If it doesn't, it creates a new account, puts it on
Oh,
their
that's right.
calendar. So when somebody's working in an office on Service Monster and moves or adds or drags an appointment in their calendar, it's automatically updated on the 24/7 live side of Fiddlebug. So they've been a great partner as well.
That's
Um,
automation.
yeah. I mean, I just don't like to work that hard.
Hmm.
That's the bottom line. I just like to come up with ideas that to me make sense. To share a quick little story, I used to work for the second largest commercial cleaning franchise. And in 9 months, I led the nation selling for them. And so they said they were going to fly me out to Baltimore and have me tell them how I did it. Well, you know what? I didn't do it anything like they told me,
Right.
because their training to me made no sense. They said, start in the morning with a meeting, come back at the end of the day, we're having another sales meeting, in between, gather information, go out and see people, come back and put your binders together. I said, no, I'm going to go out and see people. I'm going to have a laptop. I'm going to have a card scanner, and I'm going to have a printer on the floorboard of my passenger seat. I'm going to scan the card after I get it, and after I leave them and get the information, put the program together, print out the offer, bind it, walk back in 5, 10 minutes later and make the sale. And that's how I led the nation. I took out the entire day of having to go back and forth because it didn't make any sense. I automated that process. So I've been doing things in automation for quite a long time that I didn't even really stop and think about, but it really is automation. And I think it's because I have a curious mind.
Right.
And I always say, why this? I used to drive my dad nuts. He was a surgeon. And I'd say, why do we have to do it that way? Why do we have to do it that way? When I'm a kid. And his answer was, because people die. You
Yeah. Yeah.
know? And I go, well, that doesn't make sense. But that's his way of saying, shut up, I'm busy. But people die if they don't listen to me. Okay. But
It's like a drill sergeant or somebody on the front lines of battle. Absolutely.
yeah. So you asked the question, how can people find out more about Fiddlebug? I guess the one thing I want them to know is there's so much more that we haven't talked about,
Yeah.
and I know we don't have all day. So
Yeah.
features that'll make your job easier. Maybe you.
And I also want to come back to this to different things. Talk about the drip campaigns, because that's a whole different um, thing that you can automate with the business. I mean, when you got into all the background bells and whistles to it, I went, geez, there's only so much you can talk about, and I try to keep them to about 30 minutes to keep everybody's interest peak up and give the raw content information right up
Yeah.
front. But it is Steve is 100% sure when you're looking at this thing, you're going, it does that, it does this, it
Yeah.
does this. Oh my God. It just made like the stress from my shoulders went down when I started seeing all the things that it can do. And here's the thing, it does it whether I say go or not. It's done automatically. The scheduling, think about it, what he was talking about with Service Monster. They book a job, they find out when you're available. It goes on there. If that doesn't work, it moves your entire scheduling calendar around automatically, configures if the customer is already in the base. If they're not in the base, it puts them in the base and schedules the whole job. You have never touched a thing. You've never had a human being to sit there and talk about this or that. You've never had a human being to make the mistake of, I didn't get their phone number, I didn't get the address right, I didn't get the email correctly.
You
You've
know,
had
Rob, I got to tell this story
sure.
only because uh, you reminded me of something. People, I will play with people sometimes when I'm telling them about Fiddlebug for the first time, and I say, listen, I will send you $100 bill. And what I want you to do with that $100 bill is put it in your local newspaper. And I want you to go and in the ad, I'll write the ad. I want the ad to say this: looking for a customer service assistance to help us with scheduling and other customer service efforts. Needs to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Needs to send out follow-ups, needs to import data, needs to take and process a deposit, needs to work all month, needs to never ask for a raise, and needs to never ask for insurance, but we're willing to pay $200. And I said, if you can get anybody to apply, keep the $100. Now I love
Oh
people.
man, that's
I
true.
love people, but for $200, it is the cheapest person you could ever hire.
Yeah.
The challenge is getting your clients to know that they can use it.
Well, that's our job. Our job is to make them aware that there is an easier way. And I just, again, just talking about changing your phone calls, if that's your primary form of contact. If it's not, and it's all online, and it's even easier. But even with the phones, it takes 2 seconds. Get off the phone, website, make it simple, book it and be done. Your words. And it really is. You can't miss it. As I said, look at the top, the large red banner at the very top that says book it and be done. And 5 minutes later, you're on our schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. So how can they find out? Yes, it's fiddlebug.com, FITTLEBUG.com. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. Fiddle with two T's, not D as in David. T as
I,
in
I, I learned that incorrectly when I first got there and I started typing in. I'm like,
Tom.
it's not the same.
That's a story in itself.
Then I got the hat. You gave
Yeah.
me the hat. I'm like, there's the hat. It says
Yeah.
fiddlebug.com. So I've become a rabid fan. You're a great guy. You're great to deal with. And I can't wait to really use this thing more and more over and over again. I'm brand new, but I just went, wow, I've got to change my plans about who I'm going to have on the podcast because I got to get him on now because this
Well,
thing,
I appreciate you having me on. I've enjoyed meeting you and look forward to working with you in the future. Yes,
absolutely.
www.fiddlebug.com. Pick up the phone if you want. If you have questions, 630-444-2000. That's 630-444-2000. Or if you just want to send me an email, steve@fiddlebug.com.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Again, I want to thank our sponsor, SoTellUs.com/Rob Lyon, ROBLYON. They are the Cadillac, in my opinion, of review management software. If you're not familiar with the Cadillac is and you're my age or your Steve's age, it is the best thing you can get. It's the top of level. And as he talked about the audio stuff or the video stuff software, I love it because the information and the reviews get distributed correctly across the forums, and people tell me every single day in our service business, "Oh, I saw your reviews. When can you do it? I saw your reviews. When can you do it?"
They're
It's such
huge.
a huge transforming tool. And now with a program like Fiddlebug, literally they can make it even easier because they've made a decision to hire you. As long as it's within their budgetary, issues, they can go and done. They can book it and be done. Thank you, Steve, so much for being here today. I appreciate it. And to our listeners, again, thank you for joining us for a brand new episode of the Service Without Excuses podcast here. And check out fiddlebug.com, FITTLEBUG.com. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.